Good morning children. Let us start our new lesson. Okay. That is friction. At the same time I am going to take the revision also. Everyone take the important. In the middle of the lesson I am going to tell the important questions also. You please take that. Open your textbooks and open the second chapter. Friction. And also revision. Yes, now important questions I'm going to explain now in the friction lesson. Okay, everyone open and keep textbook in front of you. Let us see some introduction before going to friction. See, when we roll a ball on different plane surface like carpet, rough roads and on smooth floor by applying same external force, we observe that the motion of the ball is different in each case. The ball moved a large distance on smooth floor. On comparing with carpet and rough surface, the force of resistance to the motion seems to be more on the rough surface. The rolling ball moves further on the smooth marble floor than on a rough sandy surface. Nana, in this lesson, we are going to learn how the concept of friction, that is force is applying on a friction. At the same time, we are we'll be identifying some forces, how it is acting on a acting body, and some activities also we'll be learning. Okay, so and also we'll be this introduction how when a roll a ball in different places like carpet, rough roads and smooth floor by applying same external force. Nana, let us see some ball. It is rolling. Ball is rolling. So when it is rolling on same face with the same force, Nana, with the same force on the different places. On the different places like examples carpet. On the plane surface, carpet, on the plane surface, yes, and also on rough roads, and the smooth floor, and also smooth floor, and the smooth floor. Yes, when let us observe take one ball. Let's start giving some force where it is rolling. Yes, it is rolling at different places. With the same force, we are giving a ball to roll on the carpet, on the plane surface, on the rough roads and also smooth floor. What is happening? What is happening on the carpet? What is happening on the plane surface? What is happening on the rough roads? What is happening on the smooth floor? See, when we apply a ball to move, we are acting some force on that. With the same force, we are applying on these surfaces. Yes, in each case, we are seeing different force. Yes, that is, we are going to learn the friction. Let's see, the resistance offered to the motion of the body over the surface of another body is called force of friction. The rolling ball moves. The rolling ball moves through a carpet, through a plane surface, through a rough roads or a smooth floor. What is happening on the carpet? Because when the rolling a ball, it is moves forward and stops because there is a stuck in place in the carpet. Yes, in the same way when you observe on the plane surface, it goes on moving. It doesn't stop. Yes, on a rough place, it moves at certain place and also it stops. When you observe on the smooth floor, in the same way, plane surface or the smooth floor are same. Where when we see a ball is rolled on a smooth floor, it doesn't stop. It going on. Some resistance power is more there. Yes, with the same force we are acting on the same surfaces. Yes, here we are observing the resistance offered on the motion of the body. The resistance offered on the motion of the body, we are applying on the body, yes, on the object and acting more body will be seen by activity 1. Everyone open activity 1. Activity 1. Place a book on the surface of the table. See Nana, in activity 1, identifying the force acting on a body and effect of frictional force. See, we are taking one body. Yes, we are taking one body. What is the effect of force on that body and also frictional force? We are going how the frictional force is acting on that body and also same force is acting. We are going to learn we are identifying the force and the friction on the same experiment. See now, everyone look at the board. Look at the book. Place a book on the surface of the table and gently push the book as shown in the figure 1. See, place a book. Let us see one of the table here. Yes. This is one table. Yes. This. Now place a book here. Yeah. Place a book. Yes. Place a book. Move in that way. Yes. Place a book on the surface of the table. This is the surface of the table. You just place a book on the table. We observe that the book stops after covering some distance. When we move this book forward, what happens? It going on moving or it stops? To a certain position, it moves. Unless how much we move, the book moves till that and also next it makes to stop. Yes? And next, what we are observing there, the book moves with uniform speed, non-uniform speed with respect to the surface of the table. This can be observed in figure 2. If a body has to be in non-uniform motion, a net force should act on it. Yes. So when the body is moves till some and doesn't move, it is in non-uniform motion. The body is in non-uniform motion. When the non-uniform motion, we have learned already a net force. Yes. What is acting? A net force is acting there. Let us examine the forces acting on the book. When the direction of the book, it is in this direction. Let us examine the force acting on the book. Two forces acts on the body in the vertical direction as shown in the figure 3. See, let us see some of the book here. Here it is forces acting on the book. These are the forces acting on the book. Two forces act on the body in the vertical direction. Two forces are acting. That is forces acting on the vertical position. And weight of the book and also our gravitational force acting vertically downwards. Yes. Now normal force or reaction force applied by the floor vertically upwards. As there is no change in motion of the book along the vertical direction, the net force acting on the book in vertical direction is 0. That is when these forces, the gravitational force and the net force are acting, that is normal force are acting in the same force. So there is a net force. So net force acting on the body is 0. Yes, in the same way, that is way W, weight of the book and the normal force is equals to 0. Yes, the speed of the book gradually decreases in the horizontal direction. That is, the book has acceleration opposite to the direction of the motion, which we call deceleration. So, when the body moves in the horizontal direction, the body moves still whatever it happens in vertical direction, that moves the book acceleration opposite to the direction, which is nothing but deceleration. The acceleration. The force applied on the surface on the book is called friction. frictional force. The force applied on this, which is nothing but a force on the surface of the book. On the surface of the book is called frictional force. Yes, the force which opposes the relative motion to surface of the bodies in contact is called frictional force. This type of frictional between the book and the floor is called sliding friction. Yes, this is a book, and also we are acting some force here. Yes, in the same way the surface also acting some force on the book. In between these two, there is acting a sliding friction. Yes, sliding friction. Yes, the motion acting in the opposite direction. The force is acting in the opposite direction. The force is acting in the opposite direction is nothing but frictional force. Where the relative motion and the relative motion opposes the force. The force which opposes the relative motion is nothing but frictional force. And also the weight of the body and the surface of the body, where the force is acting between these two bodies, there a sliding friction is acting. Yes, the sliding friction is acting. Okay, that is called sliding friction. What is sliding friction? The friction which comes into play when the surface of one object moves relative to the surface to the another object is called sliding friction. The friction comes into play. The friction is acting on the book. Yes, it is acting to move. So when the surface of an object moves relatively, when the surface of the object moves relatively, when object moves relatively to surface of another object, to the surface of another object is called sliding friction. So there are some of the important questions in this. Everyone, I am going to share the assignment. So try to do that. Now let us see nature of friction and also concept of static friction. See, we see some of the important questions. Nature of friction and also concept of static friction. Yes, we will be learning in this nature how in this chapter, in this concept we are going to learn nature of friction. At the same time, by using the nature of friction and by using some experiment, we are going to learn nature of friction here, and also how the day-to-day life, how the static friction is going to be takes place. That is also I am going to explain. Yes, by lab activity we can understand the nature of friction. How it is we see. Now everyone open lab activity textbook. See, aim here to understand the nature of friction and concept of friction. What is the aim? What is the aim? Yes, we are knowing concept of nature of friction. Nature of friction and static friction. Static friction. Yes. Now here some materials required. Toy trolley. Yes. By this experiment we will be knowing what is the nature of friction, how the static friction is going to be takes place by this experiment. Okay. Yes. Now let us see some toy trolley and also pulley and also small wooden block, weight hangers, inextensible string. Yes, and also weight hangers, table. Yes, table and also weights. Yes, weights, string, hangers, and also wooden. These are the pulleys we are going to take to this experiment. Increase the weights on precautions. What is the precautions? Increase the the weights on weight hangers gradually. Do not drop down the hanger with weight suddenly. In case we have to increase the weights on this by gradually, but weight on the gradually it is not hanger with the weight suddenly. Okay na? Procedure. Take a small toy trolley and keep a wooden block on it shown in the figure. How it is kept? See, a wooden block is kept on the table, yes or no? And tie an extensible string to the trolley and pass it over a pulley. Now tie a string from the wooden block to the pulley and also tie to the weights also and pass it to the over the pulley. The other end of the string it is fixed to the anchor. Then other end it is fixed to the weights. Yes, take a small weight and keep it on weight hanger and observe the changes in the motion of the block and trolley. When you keep this hanger a weights going on applying some weights, different weights. What is observing? What is happening? What is happening in between these trolley? Yes, we are going to see some changes. You will notice that the trolley along with the block on it moves towards left with some acceleration. See, when you going on adding some weights on the weight hanger, it try to move in the with the acceleration on the left side. Yes, and also the block is at with respect to the surface of the trolley, but it is in the motion with respect to the surface of the table. Now keep on increasing the weights on the hanger. Observe the motion of the both trolley and also block. When you observe the going on increasing the weights on the weight hanger, you will be observing the changes in the weight block and also changes in the moving in the direction. Yes, and also now surface of the trolley tries to keep the block at rest here with respect to its surface. The surface of the trolley. Yes, the surface of this trolley tries to keep the block at rest. Here the respect to the surface. Yes. Thus the force of friction by the surface by the trolley acts on the block in the direction of the motion. Thus the force of friction. Here the force of friction. The force of friction is acting by the surface of the trolley. By the surface of the trolley acts on the block direction of motion. Yes. Now at the same time the block also applies some force on the weight trolley in the opposite direction. When they are acting in the opposite direction, some relative motion is acting with the block at the same time the trolley. Yes, the trolley. Yes, where in the opposite direction, which is nothing but which tries to move forward. Tries to move forward. That to your right side. Yes, we can increase the trolley acceleration by increasing the weights also. We can increase the trolley by adding the more weights also. Here, if we increase the acceleration of the trolley gradually at a certain limiting acceleration or limiting weight, the blocks come into the motion in the reverse direction. When we are going on increasing the weights, in the opposite direction, it is going to be increase the motion of the trolley also. This means that now there exists a relative motion between the surface of the trolley and the block. There is a relative motion. Till now only I told that a block and a trolley a relative motion will be acting in the opposite direction, where relative motion and the force of the frictional force, that is where we are acting a relative motion in the opposite direction, where we apply some relative motion between the surface of the trolley and the block. Yes, what? The result in this experiment at certain acceleration, the block did not move with respect to the surface of the trolley. In this state, the frictional force present between the surfaces of the trolley and the block is called static friction. Now simply static means at rest. Yes, at rest. Static means at rest. Where when we are going on applying some weights on this, it is going on increasing the motion of the trolley. So when we are increasing the trolley motion in the opposite direction, the relative motion is acting on the trolley and the surface of the trolley and also block. So in this case, we are observing a static friction where the body completely will be at rest. Okay now. So here as a result we will be knowing that the frictional force which comes into play, the frictional force which comes into play on this when the surface of the object at rest related to each other is called static friction. Now what is frictional force? The relative motion, to the relative motion a opposite direction of force will be applied. That is nothing but frictional force. In the same way we have learned sliding friction also in between the body and the surface. Yes, here the static friction also there is some changes. Completely the body will be at rest to a certain position, to the certain acceleration. So there will be difference in the surface and also applying of force in the frictional force. Yes, that is nothing but a static friction. Okay. Now same activity following with the some materials and the stone and the iron block here. Here we observe sliding friction and also some frictions at the bottom of the they have given some of the experiment materials also like wooden block and keep on the trolley. Here there also what you observe, and is there any change in the maximum weight? Is there any change in the motion of the trolley and the block? Static friction and sliding friction with the trolley and the block. Here we see that in that case sliding friction comes to play when the surface of one object moves to the relative of the motion to the another motion. Here there have given examples of static friction pictures also. So you try to do some experiment in the house also. Take the iron and the stone or the relative motion, do that. Okay. Now let us see in next class a free body diagram, how it is going to be acted, how the changes of force of frictional force will be taking place. Okay, that can be seen in the next class. And also these are the important questions in the second